Hey there, my web crafting wizards. Today I have a really exciting episode for you guys. If you ever wanted to build out some sort of e-commerce website before, or like a bookings application, for like a hairstylist or something, you know how much effort that takes. You have to build out everything custom, set up your own payments and stuff like that. So today I'll teach you how we can use Wix's Headless bookings feature to basically run your own custom code. You can use React, Next.js, whatever you want, and then just add that feature on top of it for like the checkout experience. So you'll be surprised how nice this is. Their API is really nice and clean. So let's get into it. Let's build out a little bookings app. Alrighty, let's get cracking. So for this one, I'm going to be using Next.js. I think it's a good starter point because you just run a command and you pretty much have everything set up from like routing and styling hooked up to it. So if you want to follow along, I'll be using Next.js. I have VS Code for the terminal, and that's pretty much it. That's all you need. So I'm just going to copy this command over. We'll do a clean installation of Next.js. So let's open up our VS Code here. I'm going to paste that in. Let's hit enter. And let's pick a name for it. It's going to ask you for a name and just a couple of settings, but this will be really easy to set up. And while this is running in the background, let's actually head over to Wix and set up our API key so we can start fetching all the services and basically like the calendar availability and stuff like that. So I'm going to head over to Wix Studio. If you don't have an account, you can make one here. And you can use their SDK for free, so you can set up your website and everything. But if you want to do the whole checkout process and check out with PayPal and credit card and all of that, you'll need to go on their premium plan. So you can check that out here by the pricing section. But we can start going for free so you can have an experience of how this all comes together. So I'm just going to go over here to manage websites and I'll make a new website here. So I'm going to go create new website and I'll do a studio blank canvas. Okay, and all we need for here is to enable the features of the booking features on this website, because when we actually do the checkout, it'll redirect us over to Wix's system. Okay, so once this is opened up, there's just like 2 or 3 things that you need to do, and then you don't even need to come back here anymore, unless you want to manage your bookings. So let's head over here to the side panel. I'm gonna go to My Businesses, and as you can see, they have Wix stores, Wix bookings. If you want to do a blog, they also have a really nice CMS feature here. But we'll do bookings for this one. So let's enable this. I'm just gonna hit the plus icon, and that's automatically gonna add it for you. Back in the terminal as well, let's give this a name. So I'm going to say bookings next, like that. I'll call it like that. I'm just going to hit yes, yes, yes for everything here, or just enter, enter, enter. So we'll let that install as well. This is almost done. So now that this has been added, what we can do is open that side panel up again. And as you can see, we basically have 3 steps that we need to set up. One is going to be to create our services. So depending what you want to offer, if you want to offer, hairstylist services or maybe yoga services or whatever your client wants, we can set that all up here. So I'll click on create service. And I'll just guide you through quickly how you can do all of this. So they have like presets as well, like recurring classes, Zumba party. As you can see, we have hair coloring, whatever, or we can start one from scratch. Now I'll set up a couple, but I'll just click on one here so you can see kind of what this entails. So you can add a name to it, you can add a tagline to it, a description, you can upload your custom image as well. You can even use AI to kind of generate these for you. But they also have different plans. So if you want to do a per session plan, or if you want to do, like a multi-plan, that's all possible here. Then you can do a business location as well, more resources, images, and that's pretty much it. So you can create as many of these as you want. I'll set a price here. This is set to free right now, so I'll just do a fixed price instead and set £50 here. Okay, so let's hit save. And again, I'll set up a couple now, like 3 or 4 of them. So we have, but this is where you do all of that. Okay, now one more thing we need to do is the availability. So when can we book these? What are the time slots? And for that, you can go either here on show availability. Don't think you can edit it from here, but you can edit it if you go here to the 3 dots at the top. And if you head over to the booking settings. So right here, as you can see, we can set up the default hours. So let's click on that. So it's from 10 to 6. We can set a shorter duration if we want. So we can do 14 here. It's a very tight time slot that we got going, but that's fine. So we'll do Monday to Friday from 10 to 2. All right, that's when you do all your bookings. Okay, so we'll just save that and leave it there. Okay, so now that we have that set up, we can close this up. So create your service, that's been set up, set your work hours, that's been set up, and finally we can also connect our payment methods here. So let's click on that as well. That'll bring you to the settings here. And for now, I'll just connect the credit cards. And this takes like Apple Pay, Visa, pretty much everything that you want. Are you selling weird stuff? Hopefully not. So as long as it's not prohibited, you should be good to go. So I'll say, no, I do not. Let's continue to Wix payments. And I'll hit OK and accept. And that should be pretty much it. So as you can see, it does say like to actually accept the payments, you're gonna need to upgrade to this plan. They give you 14 days for free, so you can just check it out and see how you're liking it. But as you can see, you can do Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, so it's really, really nice. Okay, so that's pretty much it. There's one more thing that we need to do here is in the settings tab here, we'll need to go down to the headless feature. So just here at the bottom, and we'll need to make a new client key here. So this is used to authenticate, and whenever you want to make a fetch, to get the services on your code, you'll need to create this authentication key. So let's just call this main platform. You can give it any name you want. We'll hit create new client, and it'll give you a nice long string of code here that we'll need to save. So there we go. This is the client ID that we need. And also here for the URLs, we'll need to set up localhost 3000 because we're working on this locally. But once you actually launch your website, you can add the live domain name here as well. But for now, I'll just put localhost 3000 here for the authorized redirect URI. So when the payment goes through and everything, it'll redirect you back to the homepage of your application. Okay, so let's hit save there. And again, make sure you copy this key here, the client ID. We'll need this. Don't take mine, please. I'll delete it later. But the place where we need to do this is, let me just open up our application here. So here we are in Bookings Next. And all we really need to set up here is a new file called .env.local. Okay, so let's paste that in. And here I'll set up a next public, and we'll call this client ID. And here we can just paste that code in. And that's all the setup that we need. Okay, now that we have the project up and running, you can run the command npm run dev to see the project come up and live. So let's have a look. We can control click on this. Let's drag this in. I didn't add anything, so if you want to see, you can go to your page TSX here in your app folder, and you're going to see that there's not going to be anything. If you do have there's going to be a boilerplate set up here, but you can clear that out. I just added a header 1 here saying hey, so as long as that shows up, we should be good to go. And there it is, we got hey. Okay, so there's a couple of things we need to install with npm I. So if you run the command npm I here in the terminal, npm install, there's a couple we need to add. I did add them just now. So let's have a quick look here. So one is going to be the Wix bookings. So the way you can install these is at Wix/bookings and then at Wix redirects. So you want to get those. The SDK as well you want to install. I also installed a little date functions here, which just helps you kind of organize everything with dates. And least but not least, Lucid React for some icons. And that's pretty much it. I also use ShadCN for some styling. And the way you can get going with ShadCN, they basically just give you like nicely styled components like this straight out the box that you can just use. And the installation is you just need to run basically one command here. So if we go over to Next.js, it's this npm npx ShadCN at latest init. Okay, so just run that, and then you just need to add enter to everything, and you are good to go. All right, so now that we have that, we have our services as well. How can we actually fetch those services to show up here in the front page? Well, we need to set up a Wix client so we can start fetching data, modify data, whatever we want, basically. So I created a folder here in the root directory, and this is called lib. That's how I usually go about them. And in here, let's just open this up, create a file called Wix client.ts like that, okay? And we basically need to import a couple of things here. One, we need to import the create client and the OAuth strategy from the Wix SDK, the calendar as well, so we can display when our service is available, extended bookings, this will give us everything about our booking, and the services as well. And then finally, we'll also do the redirects here. So we'll all hook this up to the client. Basically, anything, any type of feature you want to add, you can just import them and then add them here to the client. So the way you can add them to the client is, let's initialize it first. So we'll say Wix client, and then we'll say create client, like that. This is going to take in an object. And here for the module, so whatever you have, like if you have an e-commerce or a CMS, you can insert all the modules here. So the first one is going to be the extended bookings, and just separate them by a comma here. Availability calendar, we'll do the services as well. There we go. And that should be pretty much it. Cool. Oh, there's one more, actually, the redirects we want to add as well. There we go. So now that that's added, we need to also do the OAuth here. So for the OAuth, we'll use the OAuth strategy here that we imported as well. Let's open this up. And all we need to do is pass in that client ID that we saved in our .env.local. So to do that, we can do process.env and the name of that. So we called it next public client ID. Now this could be undefined, so it might give you a red squiggly line, so just add a exclamation mark there. Okay, again, this is coming from here, next public client ID. So we're just fetching that and adding it to our client. And that's ready to go. Now you can use this anywhere in all your components if you want to fetch, modify any data. So let's just head back here to the home component. We'll render out something simple, and then if you want to style it up further, feel free to do it. I'm just going to get rid of this H1. We won't need it. So let's start fetching all of our services. So the way we can do that is we'll say const items here equal to, and we'll say await Wix client, and we'll import this from our library that we just made, .services, query services, like that, and we'll just do find here at the end. So this will query all the services for us that we added in that dashboard there on Wix. So if we open up the terminal and if we run npm run dev again, I just closed this up for a second, but let's initialize this again. Whoops, dev, like that. All right, and then if we do a refresh on the home page here, you should be able to see all those services in our Wix. So check this out in our console. If we console log out the items here with just the Wix client services, you're going to see that we're going to get back all these details. So everything that we set up in the Wix dashboard, I added 3 more. So I did an engagement photo shoot, I did a headshot photo shoot, and basically like a photographer's service here that we got going. So now it's all about styling this up. So we have all the information here, so we can start extracting it. Now, the nice thing here is that you get type safety straight out of the box. So this is all TypeScript. So we're going to say items map. We're essentially looping over everything here. I'm going to extract each item. I'm going to run an arrow function. And here, I'll just import a div. So let's do a div like that. And now each div is going to take in a key here. And it's best practice to just put in the item ID. So I'll just pass that down. As you can see, we get that nice autocomplete there going. So that's super cool. Now you can add some styles to this as well. I'll just copy some over here because there's quite a bit. So this is how it's gonna look. This is what I came up with. So I'm gonna be using Tailwind here as well. So I'm basically adding a div here with a minimum height of SVH, which is gonna be the size of the screen. And then I add a flex with the items of center. And next up, see, I don't even need to add it here, the key, because I already added it down here. And then I just do an image tag. So to get the image, what you need to do is use this media that's coming from the Wix SDK. This is going to generate you an URL that you can use straight out the box. So get the media, you can do get image URL, and the way you can extract this is from the item media main media image URL. Okay, this is all type safe, so you can just extract it. So if you do item dot, see, it just comes up with everything, so you can go through and see what you need. But yeah, if you do media, there we go, main media image URL. Okay, that's how you can get it. So I just added it in there. I added a little height to it, the width to it, and then I just did another div here with a h2 just to output the name of the service that we're offering, the description of the service that we're offering as well. And then you can extract the price and the currency and all of that jazz using the item.payment. All right, that's where you can get everything from. I'm going to comment this link out because I want to get back to this. This is going to be really important, but let's just see what this little bit of code does. Okay, so it's super simple. You just fetch the data straight in your component, and then you can render out all the HTML of your service. So there we go. It's kind of like a full screen experience here. If you want to add some animations to this, you can add something like frame or motion, but that's looking really good. So that's one service, the family photo shoot, engagement photo shoot, and the headshot photo shoot. Again, if I want to come here and update the images, I can simply head here to my services and go to manage services and update whether I want the picture or the image. So now what we want to do essentially is when we click here, I want to have a button here. Then when I click on it, it'll take us to the page where we can basically display all the time slots available to book, right? So to do that, let's head back here. We're going to import the link tag from Next.js. Okay, so the link tag, that's going to come from next link here. That's it. We don't need this. Let's get rid of that. All right. And the href here is going to say, hey, where should we go? All right, where's the URL gonna go? And I'm going to services/item ID. All right, so I'm just adding /service/ and then we have a dynamic URL here, depending on which service we click on. And that's just gonna say book a session there. Now, if you click on this, this is not gonna work. So we need to set up another route in our application. So it takes us to a dynamic link. And the way you can do that is, again, in the app folder here, I just set up a services direct folder, and another folder within it called ID in curly brackets like that. And then in there, we just have a page.tsx. And as you can see, all I'm doing here is just rendering out a h1. Okay, so now when we click here, this should take us to that page. As you can see, services/ and then the ID there. Okay, so that's how you can set it up. And here, obviously, we want to pull out all the time slots related to this service. So one thing that we can do is pull out the ID, right? We need that ID. And the way you can do that is straight here. You can say params like that. And this params, you can see that it has an ID on it. So we'll just say params here. And on this params, we'll have an ID that is a type of string like that. So if I just want to output that, I can go here and say params.id. And now when we save and head back here, if I click here, as you can see, it's going to pull that ID from the URL. So that's fantastic. Okay, so there's a couple of things we need to do here. We need to fetch those time slots that are available and also kind of group them up nicely. So, because right now, like, we're going to get back for the whole month, right? Or for the whole year. And I don't want to display all of that. I just want to display all the time slots maybe available for this current month. So what I did was in the lib folder here, I'm gonna set up another little function for us to basically get all the time slots available this month. Okay, again, you can customize this to anything you want, but I'm gonna say get date, let's say date range.ts. All right, let's call it like that. And this is gonna be a super simple function. So it's gonna be an export const get date range. I'm just setting the day as today, and the end of the month, the way you can do that is set a new date, get the current year from today, the current month of today, and then I'm just basically setting it here to the end of that day of the month. All right, I'm just returning the start date and the end date. All right, that's all we need here. Okay, cool. So let's go back here. I'm going to import it right here. So we're going to say const. We're going to say start date is equal to get date range from our lib there. Okay, so let's import that. And let's also import the end date as well. Okay, how can we fetch the actual time slots that are available? Well, we can say const equal here, and we're going to import that Wix client again. And here we can say availability calendar like that. I'm going to query the availability here like that. And here, what we can do is actually pass down a filter that's going to limit the amount of, services that you want to return to the user. So we're going to say one thing that we need is the service ID. So let's add that. And that's just going to be the ID of the service. Okay, so you can do params ID like that. And then the start date and the end date. You can pass those down like that. Okay, and here you're going to have all the availability entries like that. Now, if you want to nicely format these and group them together, I made a little separate function here. I'll just paste it to the top if you're interested in copying. This is the slot, how it looks. This is the actual types for it. So the slot has a start date, end date, and the service ID, and it's going to also tell you if it's bookable or not. And then I just did a little group slots type here as well. And this here, the group slots by date, I just made a little function here. Basically, I want to put all of the slots together per day, right? Because I want to make a nice little card for it. So this is the functionality for it. And here for the format and the parse ISO, I'm using that date FNS package. So format, we can import that from date FNS here if I click on that, and also the parse ISO. So let me just go to the top here and import those for you. Parse ISO, and there we go. All right, so we can use this easily now to pass it down to another component and render that out beautifully. So I'll just head to the bottom here, and all I need to do is say const grouped slots is equal to, I'm going to say group slots by date, and I'm going to pass down the availability entries like that as a array of slots. Cool. So now with this, we can set up a nice little calendar here. So we'll let's change this maybe to a section. There we go. And now here, rather than doing a H1, let's just do a div. I'm going to add a bit of styling to this. So I'm going to add a gap of 4, a margin Y of 8 to kind of push it from the top away. Here, let's also do an icon. So if you have Lucid React installed, you can just import it straight away like that. Let's add a class name to this as well. I'm going to say width 8 and height 8 to kind of limit the size a little bit. There we go. And let's have a quick look, see how this looks. So when we go to book session now, and hit refresh, this should update now. If it didn't, it might have been cached, so make sure you do a refresh. So check this out. I'm gonna console log out the group slots that we made here, and let's have a look how this calendar looks as well. So if we have back here, we can see the calendar, and let's see the console as well. Look at that, we have all the slots nicely booked together. Okay, so it's all about making a component now to render this out nicely. So I'm gonna create another one here called time slots. Now let me clear this out, and we're gonna start this from scratch. So you can put it here with these services as it's the only place we're gonna use it. The way I like to format it usually is if this gets used in multiple places, then I'll move it in its own like components folder or something like that. Okay, so let's make this time slots component here. So I'm gonna mark this with a use client because we're gonna have some interactivity, right? We should be able to click on it and go to the actual booking page. And then here, I'm gonna import a couple more things. I'm gonna import the formatting stuff from date functions. Next up, I'm also gonna import a card from ShadCN. So if you install ShadCN, it's gonna install it in your components library there. I'm also gonna add a button. Again, you can use a normal button if you want to, but this is gonna just look a tad bit nicer. And finally, I'll get the Wix client in and also a use state. Now, for the time slot types, this is how this is gonna look like. So I'm gonna do the group slots here. Now we already made this, so I can just import the actual type in from my page there like that. And then for the format time, I'm just gonna pass in the date here and just return the formatted one with parse ISO. So it's as simple as that. All right, so let's actually create the components. We're gonna say export, default function, call this time slots. There we go. So we're gonna have access to the group slots within here, like that. And this is a type of time slots props. Time slots, that's hard to say. There we go, cool. Let's open this up, and then here we can return whatever we wanna return. So I'm just gonna do a simple div here. And then what we're gonna do is, well, we need to import it here, right? So let's just go back to our main component. We'll have the calendar here. Let's also add a bit more text here. So I'll just do a div, do h2 here and say available. Can spell available, is that correct? Appointments. Oh my god, I need to proofread that. Okay, and then a p tag will say select a time slot for your appointment. There we go. And then we can style this up a little bit if we want to. Okay, and go here, add a class name, makes the text 3XL here, so it's pretty big. I'll add a font bold as well to it. And then I'll do a text muted foreground on the secondary text. And right below this div then, we can just import the time slots, right? This component that we made here. And this is gonna take in one prop, which is gonna be the group slots, but we already made that. So we can just pass it down like that, okay? Cool, we can remove this console log as well and hit save. All right, so this group slots is available now here. So what we can do is I'm gonna do an object.entries. And again, kind of loop over these group slots that we have here. I'm gonna map over them. And I'm gonna extract the date and the actual slots within here. I'm gonna run an arrow function. And now what I can do is return a card here. So I'll just copy paste this over because there's a bit of HTML and I just want to show you the interesting bits that you need to know. So all of this, I'll just clear this out, all this on-click stuff, we don't need it for now. I just want to show you the actual HTML. Okay, so I'm just mapping over the slots, and for each slot, I'm returning a button, and then I'm just formatting the start date, and I'm formatting the end date as well. All right, that's all there is to it. Okay, so if we have a look now, look at that. We have our card system with all the different dates that we can book. And this is up to us how we want to do it. I specifically selected a month worth of like appointments, but you can customize it any way you want. You can simply head over to your date range here and adjust it to anything you want. Okay, now one thing that we need to do is, well, I also want to display like all the slots that are already booked, right? Those shouldn't be able to be clicked. So let's start from there. So the way you can do that is add a disabled property here on the button. And all we're gonna say is if the slot is not bookable, then it should be disabled. Okay, as simple as that. And then for the variant here, I'm gonna add some styling. I'm gonna say slot.slot. If that triple equals to the selected slot, .slot. Now we don't have this, but we'll make it just now. But let's just add this. Then I want the variant to be default. Otherwise, what should we make this? Let's do, if not, then let's do an outline instead. Okay, so we have a state here that we haven't made yet, so let's just make it. It's gonna be as simple as, let's go here to the top. It's gonna be just a selected slot with a set selected slot, and this is a use state that can be either a type of slot, I'll import the type as well, or null. Just that. That's all there is to it. So if we check now, look at that. Now none of them are selected, so that's great. And again, if it would be already booked, it would just be disabled for you. Now it's up to you where you want to add the book now button or something like that. I'll just do it straight here on the actual button just for simplicity's sake. But have a look at the docs. I'll link it down in the description below if you want to customize it more. But I'll just do an async function here. So it's going to be an async. And the first thing I'm going to do is put the selected slot over to this slot like that. And why is that not working? Because it's set selected slot. There we go. All right, so we'll just set the selected slot over. And then what we need to do is create a token. Create a token that would let the user check out, basically, and redirect the user over to the Wix page. So the way we can do that to generate this token is I'll do a visitor token in this case because they're not logged in. So if they just want to come on the website and click, they'll need to complete like the information afterwards, like the email and their name and also the credit card. So you can just create a visitor token. It's a bit simpler. All we need to do here is say wait. We'll say Wix client, OAuth, generate visitor token, and that's pretty much it. And then you can attach this to the actual Wix client. So Wix client, the auth, set tokens, and we'll set the token to the visitor token like that. And you are pretty much good to go. Now we just need the redirect session here, and we can set that equal to await Wix client, and we'll do a redirect. And now here, that depends what kind of app you made. You can redirect them to an e-commerce checkout. You can redirect them to a bookings checkout. In our case, we made a booking application, so we're going to be using the bookings checkout. So if you type in bookings, let's see. So if this doesn't work, actually here we need to do redirects dot create redirect session. There we go. And now we should be able to open this up and do a bookings checkout. There we go. So let's do that bookings checkout. And this is going to take in the slot availability, which we can just paste down the slot. And the time zone as well. So if we do time zone, I'll just do an intl.date time format here. And I'm going to say resolved options dot time zone. All right, this is going to get the actual time zone. All right, cool. And the last step is going to be to, oh, sorry, this doesn't need to be invoked. We can just pass it down like that. And one more thing here, after this object, we can pass down a callbacks. So where do you want the user to be redirected? So you can do it on like the success page after their payments went through. You can check out all the different callbacks that they have here. So I'll just do the post flow URL and I can set it over to window.location.href. Okay, and that's pretty much it. After this, if this is all successful, so we can say if the redirect session, the redirect session has a full URL, that means we are ready to take the user and bring them there. So we can say window.location.href, so we can change this over to the redirect session full URL, and that should be it. We can remove this S here, we don't need that. And yeah, no errors. We are looking fine and dandy. So now if we head back over here, let's just give this a shot. So we can go to book a session. We see the calendar. Let's say we want on Tuesday for 10:30 to 11:30. So I'll click on that. And as you can see, we're getting redirected over to that Wix page. If this doesn't work for some reason for you, what you need to do is publish the application from your Wix Wix page. So the way you can do that, I'll just show you really quickly. We'll go over to Wix Studio. You go over to Workspace. All right, this is my site. So let's open this up. We'll go to edit, and we just need to make sure that this is published. So there we go. We are on the website here. So here we go. It wasn't published. So let's click publish here at the top. And once this is done, there we go. Your site is published. Now this should work. So let's give this another go. And now there we go. When we click on this again, you're going to see that it starts the booking process for us. It redirects us to the Wix Studio IO website. And then here we can proceed with checking out. So you'll need to pass in your email. Now this is not managed by you, so this is super simple. It has the type safety and everything. So you'll need to add this information to book it. And then it's going to proceed you with the checkout. But again, to do this and to complete this, you'll need to sign up to the premium plan. But at least you get now a good understanding on how this whole process is getting built. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know if you want to see more. I'd love to do another episode maybe showing off their e-commerce website and how those headless features work, and also the CMS for a specific blog if you want to make. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Drop that like. It doesn't take too much time, and a little subscribe there. It'll make my day happy. Thank you so much. Take care.